Wet grass against my bare ankles. Cold wind. But the smell is wrong. It smells like fresh paint. Specifically Benjamin Moore White Dove. My chest seizes. I am standing outside in the dark, 30 steps from my own front door. The baby monitor in my left hand glows a steady green. Lily is asleep in her crib, but I am staring through a living room window that is not mine and my brain cannot process the shapes. Oak shelving, floating brackets, staggered exactly 3 inches apart, pendant lights hanging above a kitchen island, brushed brass, sourced from an independent metalsmith in Oregon. I know this because I ordered them. I know this because I am an interior designer. My name is Kendall Harper. I am 28 years old, and I am looking at a perfect exact replica of my own home. My eyes trace the charcoal gray sofa. They land on the mantel. A framed photograph, Cancun. The water is turquoise. The man in the photo is wearing a linen shirt I bought him. But the woman laughing beside him is not me. She has blonde highlights. And the man sitting on that charcoal sofa right in front of me, resting his hand on her pregnant stomach, is Logan, my husband of 4 years. My knees hit the mulch. Wood chips slice into my bare skin. No air reaches my lungs. The world shrinks to the sound of my own pulse roaring in my ears. I should have paid attention to the oatmeal. I should have seen the blueprint forming weeks ago. It was a Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the evening. The kitchen was warm. I was scraping dried oatmeal off the high chair tray while Lily threw her plastic spoon onto the floor for the 5th time. This kitchen was my masterpiece. I spent a year designing every inch of our house here in Charlotte. After Lily was born, my freelance clients dried up. My world became these 4 walls, and Logan became my only window to the outside. I bent down to grab the spoon. When I stood back up, I glanced out the window over the sink. Logan was walking down the driveway. He carried his red metal toolbox over his shoulder, heading straight for the house next door. Vicky Slade lived there. She was a barista at the local coffee shop. Single. She moved in 8 months ago. 2 hours passed. The front door opened and Logan walked in. He smelled like sawdust and night air. What was it this time? I asked, wiping down the counter. Garbage disposal? Logan set his toolbox on the floor. Thing is completely shot. Told her she needs a whole new unit. I stopped wiping. You have been over there a lot lately. Logan smiled. That crooked, easy smile that made the neighbors trust him. He walked over and kissed my forehead. Darling, that house is falling apart. The previous owner did absolutely 0 maintenance. I am just being a good neighbor. You never charge her, I pointed out. She is a single woman, living alone. Logan grabbed an apple from the bowl. It would not be right. He chewed, swallowing quickly. Hey, do you mind if I borrow this? He picked up my design sketchbook. It was thick, filled with fabric, swatches, layout plans, and every idea I used for our home. What for? I asked. I have a client who wants something similar to what you did in the hallway, Logan said. Just want to show them the concept. I nodded. I did not think anything of it. 30 minutes later, I put Lily down for the night. The house was quiet. I sat on the sofa and opened our shared iPad to check my email. A notification popped up from Harper Home Solutions, his renovation business. It was a receipt from the accounting app, a charge for $387 at Sherwin-Williams. I stared at the screen. Logan had not mentioned a new painting project. He only did structural renovations right now. I closed the app. I told myself he probably just forgot to tell me. Outside, a dog started barking. I opened the Ring doorbell app to check the front yard. Logan installed the camera for security 6 months ago. The feed loaded. The wide angle captured our driveway, the street, and the clear path leading straight to Vicky's front porch. The porch light was off. Everything looked quiet. I locked the screen. I told myself my life was exactly what I designed it to be. I should have looked closer. The pattern was right there waiting to be found. It started with Wednesday, then Friday, then Sunday evening. Fixing the deck railing, Logan said on Wednesday, grabbing his keys. Replacing a light switch, he said on Friday, putting on his boots. Her bathroom faucet is leaking again, he called out on Sunday. Each visit lasted 2 or 3 hours. But the excuses were not what made my stomach tighten. It was the soap. On a Tuesday night, I watched him walk out of the bathroom. His hair was wet. The sharp scent of cedarwood cologne hung in the air. He put on a crisp, clean flannel shirt. No one wears a brand new shirt to fix a leaking pipe. Then came the night Lily woke up screaming. The clock on the nightstand read 11. I reached across the bed. The sheets were cold. Logan was gone. I picked up my phone and called him. It went straight to voicemail. The house was dead silent. I opened the Ring app. The driveway was empty. His truck was not there. At 11:17, headlights swept across the bedroom wall. I heard the front door open downstairs. I met him in the kitchen. "Where were you?" Logan did not flinch. "Sorry." My phone was on silent. I was out in the garage trying to find that missing socket wrench. He walked past me to the fridge. I stood completely still. When he went upstairs, I opened the door to the garage. The air inside was freezing. No lights were on. I walked over to where his truck usually parked and placed my hand on the empty concrete. It was cold. I walked outside to the driveway and pressed my palm flat against the hood of his truck. The metal was ticking. It was radiating heat from a long drive. That heat burned right through my denial. 3 days later, I found myself standing in the wet mulch outside Vicky Slade's window. The timeline caught up to the present. I was still on my knees in the dirt, my sketchbook, the one he borrowed for a fake client. He used it. He took my exact layouts, my exact color palettes, and he built my life for the woman sitting next to him. Through the glass, Logan whispered something into Vicky's ear. She tipped her head back and laughed. He leaned down and pressed his lips to the swell of her stomach. The physical reaction hit me in waves. My hands went numb. Acid clawed up my throat. I remembered my mother, Janet, sitting at the kitchen table in my childhood home. My father was out with his secretary again. My mother had just looked out the window and whispered to herself, "At least the kitchen is nice." I swore I would never be her. I swore I would never love a house more than the truth. I forced my legs to unbend. The joints popped in the quiet night. I turned around and began the walk back. 30 steps, over the low fence, across the grass. I opened my front door. The hinges did not make a sound. The baby monitor was still glowing green. Lily was safe. I walked into my kitchen. The white dove walls felt like a cage. I looked at the counter where my sketchbook usually sat. It was still gone. He had not returned it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. The screen lit up the dark room. A text message from Logan. "Going to bed early, darling. Love you." I stared at the letters. I looked up. Through my kitchen window across the dark yard, the lights in Vicky's living room were still shining brightly. The sun came up on Saturday morning. I had not slept a single minute. My eyes burned dry and gritty. Logan rolled out of bed, kissed my forehead, and said he was going to meet a client downtown. I knew exactly which house he was walking to. For 2 hours, I sat on the living room rug while Lily stacked wooden blocks. The silence in my head was deafening, replaced only by 3 distinct voices arguing in a loop. The first voice was small and terrified. "Maybe it is a coincidence," it whispered. "Maybe Vicky just liked your style. Maybe Logan was just doing what the customer asked." The second voice was cold and sharp. "The paint is the exact same. The layout is the exact same. The pendant lights are from the exact same shop in Oregon, and your sketchbook is sitting on her nightstand." The third voice belonged to my mother. "Every marriage has rough patches, sweetie. You have to endure." Lily knocked over her tower of blocks. They clattered against the hardwood floor. She looked up at me and giggled. I looked at my daughter. If I stayed quiet, I would become my mother. I would teach Lily how to swallow lies and call it love. If I fought back, I would lose this house. I would lose the life I spent 4 years building. But this house was already gone. It had been copied, cheapened, and handed to someone else. It was no longer mine. It was just the original draft. I reached for my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I had not called in 2 years. Janine Voss. Everyone called her JJ. We used to work at the same design firm before I quit. She survived a brutal divorce 5 years ago. I pressed the call button. The line rang twice. Hello, my jaw tightened. JJ, it is Kendall. I need to talk to someone, and I think you are the exact only person who will actually believe me. The bell above the coffee shop door chimed. Monday morning at 10 o'clock. The air inside smelled of roasted espresso beans and burnt milk. I pushed the stroller over the uneven tile floor. The wheels squeaked a steady rhythm. JJ sat at a corner table near the window. Her hair was cut shorter now, sharper at the jawline than I remembered from our days working together at the design firm. She wore a tailored blazer. It looked like the kind of armor a woman buys after a man tears her life apart. I parked the stroller against the wall. Lily was sleeping, her chest rising and falling under a knitted pink blanket. I sat down in the wooden chair opposite JJ. I wrapped both my hands around the paper cup of latte waiting for me, but I did not lift it to my mouth. The cardboard was hot against my palms. JJ looked at me. She did not offer a pitying smile. She just waited. Her silence was a heavy, solid thing in the noisy room. I opened my mouth, and the words poured out. I did not cry. My voice sounded flat and clinical, exactly like the tone I used when pitching a commercial layout to a difficult client. I told her about the toolbox. I told her about the ring camera. I told her about walking across the wet grass in the dark. He copied my house, I told her. Every detail. The paint, the lights, the shelving. He took my sketchbook and built my life for another woman. JJ stared at the steam rising from her cup. She stayed completely still for 10 long seconds. The espresso machine hissed loudly behind the counter. Is there anything you need to say before I tell you what I know? JJ asked quietly. My fingers tightened around my cup. What do you mean? That holiday party, JJ said. 2 years ago. Your husband had his company Christmas thing at that steakhouse downtown. You were home pregnant with Lily. I stepped out back to make a phone call. I saw Logan outside on the patio with a blonde woman. They were not kissing, but the way he touched her lower back, it was not how you touch a stranger. 2 years. The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I told myself it was nothing, JJ continued, keeping her eyes locked on mine. I told myself I was projecting because of my own divorce. I am sorry, Kendall. I really am. I should have said something right then. You are saying something now? I replied. My voice was completely hollow. JJ leaned forward and shifted instantly into strategy mode. Do not confront him. Do not change your behavior. Do not touch his phone. First, you need a lawyer. Second, you need evidence a judge will actually accept. Third, you need to know exactly what you are dealing with. She paused, taking a slow sip of her coffee. Then she delivered the sentence that froze the blood in my veins. If she is pregnant, JJ said, the clock is ticking. Because the moment that baby is born, his financial obligations split. Child support for 2 kids from 2 different women means less for Lily. I stopped breathing. The coffee shop noise faded into a dull roar. The woman next door was not just taking my design. She was not just taking my husband. The child growing inside her was a direct, literal threat to my daughter. Every dollar Logan spent on that second family was a dollar taken from Lily. JJ reached into her leather purse and slid a thick cardstock business card across the table. It stopped right next to my latte. Divorce attorney, JJ said. Right here in Charlotte. She got me everything, and she will get you more. Because North Carolina does not play nice with cheating husbands. I picked up the card. The edges were sharp. I looked down at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her stroller. I pictured my mother sitting in her own quiet kitchen, accepting her broken life because she was too afraid to fight. I slipped the card into my coat pocket. I would not become my mother. I spent the next week becoming a ghost in my own home. I moved quietly. I watched it carefully. I began gathering pieces of a puzzle Logan thought he had hidden perfectly. I waited until Logan went to sleep. I sat at the kitchen island in the dark. I pulled up the accounting application on our shared iPad. I took screenshots of every single charge. Sherwin-Williams, Home Depot, Lowe's. I matched them against the physical invoices Logan kept for his actual clients. The math did not lie. $47,000 in construction materials did not match any client invoice on record. Every single board, every gallon of paint, every brass fixture went straight into Vicky Slade's living room. I moved on to the doorbell camera. The cloud backup stored exactly 8 months of footage. I sat there for 3 nights, downloading every video. I opened a spreadsheet on my laptop. I created columns for the date, the time he left our house, and the time he returned. The pattern emerged in brutal black and white, 4 to 5 times a week, an average of 2.5 hours each visit. I scrolled to the bottom of the spreadsheet and looked at the total sum. Over 800 hours. He spent over 800 hours next door while I was raising our daughter alone. Then I needed the visual proof. I waited until Tuesday morning. Logan kissed my cheek and drove his truck to a job site. Vicky worked the morning shift at the coffee shop. Her driveway was empty. I took my camera and photographed my own house first. Every angle, every room. Then I walked the 30 steps across the grass to her house. I stood outside her windows in the broad daylight. I snapped pictures through the glass. I went back to my laptop and put the images side by side. 23 matching points. The living room rug, the floating oak shelves, the layout of the dining chairs. It was not a coincidence. It was a stolen blueprint. But the final piece of evidence was the one that truly broke the illusion. I was digging through the deepest folders of his accounting software when I found a recurring wire transfer, $2,400 a month. Labeled simply as property management expense, I searched the address attached to the receiving bank account. It was Vicky Slade's house. He signed the lease 2 months before she supposedly moved into the neighborhood. He did not go over there to help a poor, single neighbor fix a broken sink. He created the neighbor. He moved her in. He funded her existence right next to his wife. I thought the stolen house was the worst of it. I should have known the betrayal went much deeper. By the end of the second week, I sat in a high-backed leather chair inside a mahogany-paneled law office. The air conditioning hummed quietly. The city of Charlotte stretched out behind the massive glass window. I opened my tote bag. I pulled out the manila folders and laid them across the polished wood desk. The receipts, the flash drive holding the camera footage, the spreadsheet tracking his movements, the 23-point design comparison, the copied lease agreement. The lawyer sat across from me. She had gray hair pulled into a tight knot and wore wire-rimmed glasses. She picked up the papers. She flipped through the photos. She checked the spreadsheet. The only sound in the room was the crisp turn of paper. 3 full minutes passed. She did not say a word. Finally, she took off her glasses and looked at me. "This is one of the most comprehensive evidence packages I have ever seen from a client," she said. "And I have been doing this for 20 years. She leaned forward and outlined the reality of my situation. North Carolina is a fault state. Adultery gives me absolute grounds. We could file a dissipation claim to recover the $47,000 of business funds he spent on the mistress. We could even file an alienation of affection lawsuit directly against Vicky. I was the primary caregiver for Lily. My custody position was practically bulletproof. The camera footage combined with the lease agreement made the case airtight. Your husband made one critical mistake, the lawyer said, tapping her pen against the folder of receipts. Which one? I asked. He used his business accounts to build her home, she explained. That is not just marital misconduct. That is potentially tax fraud. He filed those building materials as business expenses. I designed that house, I said, staring at the photos of the identical living rooms. He copied my work. The lawyer actually let out a short laugh. It sounded dry and sharp. Mrs. Harper, she said, in 20 years of practicing family law, I have never had a case where the wife could prove her husband plagiarized her interior design for his mistress. This is completely unique. I walked out of that office and drove home. My hands were steady on the steering wheel. For the first time in weeks, I felt a solid weight in my chest instead of a hollow ache. I had the knowledge. I had the proof. I had the best lawyer in the city. I had the control. The armor was fully strapped on. I pulled into my driveway. The afternoon sun was warm and golden. I turned off the engine and stepped out of the car. Logan was standing in the front yard. He was holding Lily in his arms. The breeze caught Lily's fine brown hair. She grabbed his nose and let out a loud, joyous laugh. Logan threw his head back and laughed with her. He spun her around in a slow circle. The sunlight caught that crooked, charming smile of his. "Hey, darling," Logan called out when he saw me. "Where did you go this afternoon?" My feet stopped moving on the concrete path. The armor I had just built in that law office cracked straight down the middle. I looked at my husband holding my daughter. If I drop this evidence bomb, I destroy him. If I destroy him, I destroy the man Lily thinks is a hero. I destroy the father she loves. The victory the lawyer promised me suddenly tasted like poison. My daughter would grow up knowing her father was a liar and a thief. There was no clean way out of this. The cost of my freedom was her innocence. A new, much darker thought crept into my mind as I watched them play. If Logan copied my kitchen and my living room for Vicky, did he copy this too? Does he hold her pregnant stomach with the exact same tenderness? Will he spin that new baby in the air and laugh the exact same way? Am I just the rough draft for his affections too? I walked across the grass. I reached out and took Lily from his arms. I pulled her against my chest and hugged her much tighter than normal. She buried her face in my neck, smelling like baby lotion and sunshine. "You okay?" Logan asked, his brow furrowed in a perfect imitation of a concerned husband. "Just missed her," I said, forcing the corners of my mouth up into a smile. A sharp chime broke the quiet moment. Logan's phone dinged in his pocket. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and immediately shoved it back into his jeans. He did not look at me. "Just a client," Logan said smoothly. I nodded. I carried Lily into the house that was no longer ours. The battle lines were drawn, and Logan did not even know he was standing on a minefield. I carried Lily upstairs and put her down for a nap. When I came back downstairs, the air in the kitchen felt impossibly thick, heavy, like trying to breathe underwater. I stepped onto the tile. Logan was sitting at the kitchen island. The shared tablet lay open on the marble counter directly in front of him. The accounting application glowed brightly in the dim, shadowed room. The download history was clearly visible on the screen. He knew. He did not look up immediately. The silence stretched out between us. It was the kind of quiet that possessed physical weight. It pressed against my chest. It squeezed my lungs. "Kendall, sit down." His voice was lower than usual, slower. The southern drawl was entirely gone. He did not call me darling. I stopped at the edge of the kitchen. My heart hammered violently against my ribs, but my face remained perfectly blank. I relied on pure instinct, complete emotional detachment. "What is wrong?" I asked evenly. Logan tapped a thick, calloused finger against the glass screen. "Someone went through my business accounts. Every receipt, every charge. Someone downloaded everything." "Maybe it was your accountant," I suggested. My voice did not shake. My hands stayed loose at my sides. Logan finally looked up. His eyes locked onto mine. He did not blink. "My accountant does not use our tablet." He pushed the device across the smooth marble toward me. It spun slightly before stopping. "I can see the download history, Kendall. I let 5 seconds pass. I counted them in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then explain the $47,000 in construction materials that do not match any of your client invoices. That is business, Kendall. You do not understand how these projects work. I cut him off. I understand paint, Logan. I understand Sherwin-Williams white dove. I understand brushed brass pendant lights sourced from a very specific shop in Oregon. I understand the layout of a home because I design homes for a living, and I understand that Vicky Slade has my exact living room with a different woman in the photographs. Logan stood up. The wooden stool scraped harshly against the hardwood floor. A sharp, ugly sound that tore through the quiet house. Upstairs, the sudden noise made Lily start crying in her crib. He took a slow step toward me. The easy, charming contractor vanished entirely. The man standing in my kitchen now was a cornered animal. You went through her window. I held my ground. I did not step back. You went through my life. Logan stared at me. I watched the gears turn behind his eyes. He realized the perfect husband routine was completely dead. So he pivoted, instantly. You know what he said. His voice was dripping with sudden, chilling pity. I think you need to talk to someone, a professional. This postpartum thing has been getting worse for months. I have been trying to be patient. I really have. But going through my business accounts, stalking the poor neighbor in the middle of the night? Kendall, this is not healthy. He pulled his phone from his pocket. He dialed a number and put it on speaker right in front of me. The line rang twice. Mom, he said when the line connected, I need you to come over. Kendall is having an episode. She thinks I am having an affair with the girl next door because the paint is the same color. He let out a soft, exhausted chuckle, like my pain was just a sad, funny joke to him. Lily screamed louder upstairs. I turned my back on him. I walked up the stairs to comfort my daughter. From the hallway, I heard his voice echoing up from the kitchen. I know, Mom. I know. I will handle it. Patty Harper activated her network immediately. Within 72 hours, the Whisper campaign blanketed our entire street. My mother-in-law called 3 different neighbors. I knew because the way they looked at me changed overnight. The friendly waves from across the lawn turned into slow, lingering stares of deep pity. I was walking down the driveway to check the mail on Thursday morning when Mrs. Gable from across the street jogged over. Honey, Mrs. Gable said, placing a warm, patronizing hand on my arm. If you ever need someone to watch Lily while you just rest your mind, you just call me. We are all so worried about you. That afternoon, Logan posted a picture on the neighborhood social media group, a selfie of him holding Lily at the park. The caption read, Daddy and daughter day out, giving Mama some much-needed rest. The comments poured in. Dozens of women praising him. What a great dad. So supportive. Praying for Kendall. He was building a fortress of community approval around himself, and he was burying me underneath it. He was making sure that if I spoke out, no one would believe the crazy, unstable wife. Then Vicky made her move. It was Friday, broad daylight. Logan was at a job site. The doorbell rang. I opened the heavy front door. Vicky stood on my porch holding a plate of chocolate chip cookies wrapped in clear plastic. She wore tight athletic pants. Her pregnant belly was distinctly visible through her fitted shirt. The smell of warm chocolate and vanilla hit my face, sickeningly sweet. She knew that I knew. I saw it in the smug, perfectly polished shine of her eyes. But she was playing the game. She was testing my limits. Hi, Kendall, Vicky said. Her voice was pure, spun sugar. I heard you have not been feeling well lately. Logan mentioned you were having a hard time. Anyway, I just wanted to drop these off and be a good neighbor. I stared at her stomach. Then I looked up at her perfectly highlighted blonde hair. I did not scream. I did not throw the plate in her face. I reached out and took the warm plate of cookies. I did not say a single word. I gently closed the door in her face until the brass latch clicked into place. I stood with my back against the locked door. My hands gripped the edges of the ceramic plate so tightly my knuckles turned completely white. I squeezed until my muscles trembled, wishing the porcelain would shatter. My phone buzzed in my pocket. JJ was calling. I answered it, still staring blindly at the plate in my hands. "What did the lawyer say?" JJ asked immediately. "She said, do not confront him." I swallowed hard. I already confronted him. JJ let out a sharp breath. "Shit. Okay. We need damage control. What exactly does he know you have?" "He knows I saw her house," I answered. I walked into the kitchen and dropped the entire plate, cookies and all, directly into the trash can. "He knows I saw the receipts, but he does not know I downloaded the doorbell camera footage. And he does not know I found the lease agreement." "Then we still have leverage," JJ said firmly. "But Kendall, you need to move extremely fast. Before he figures it out and deletes everything else." It was late Saturday night. Lily was fast asleep in her nursery. Logan was out at a bar with his buddies. At least, that was the excuse he gave me while spraying on his cedarwood cologne. I knew exactly whose bed he was currently occupying. 30 steps away, I sat alone in my dark kitchen. The only light came from the small bulb under the stove hood. The house was dead quiet. I opened my laptop and typed Victoria Slade into the search bar. I found her public social media profile. I clicked on it. I was looking for anything I could send to the lawyer. I found something entirely different. Something I was completely unprepared to see. Vicky had been posting photos of her house for the last 8 months. My new place, finally making it mine. Home sweet home. Her followers left comments praising her incredible taste. "That kitchen is absolute goals. So cute. Love the whole vibe." I scrolled through the endless photos of my stolen life, the floating shelves, the pendant lights. Then my eyes caught a familiar profile picture in the comments section. It was a tiny photo of a golden retriever, my mother's dog, Janet, my mother. She had left a comment on a photo of Vicky standing in her copied living room. A single red heart emoji. "Beautiful, dear," the comment read. My breath caught sharply in my throat. I clicked on the likes. My mother followed Vicky. She followed Logan's personal account. And on the most recent photo, Vicky posted a picture showing off her expanding baby bump with Logan's large, calloused hand resting gently on her stomach. My mother had left another red heart. My mother did not know about the affair. She was just an older woman aimlessly scrolling through the internet, liking pictures of her son-in-law and the people connected to him. She did not know who Vicky truly was, but the visual symbol was absolutely devastating. I sat in the dim light and stared at the glowing screen. My own mother was unknowingly blessing the child of the woman destroying my family. The knife twisted deeper into my ribs. My mother, the woman who once looked out our kitchen window and told me, "At least the kitchen is nice," while my father betrayed her, was now liking photos of my replica kitchen. History was repeating itself in the most cruel, twisted way imaginable. My mother accepted a fake marriage because of a nice house. Now she was accidentally supporting the fake duplicate life of her own daughter. I pushed the laptop away. The screen slammed shut. I stood up and walked blindly down the hall. I went into the master bathroom and shut the heavy wooden door behind me. I did not turn on the main overhead lights. I leaned over the double vanity. I placed both hands flat on the cool marble countertop. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked at the dark, bruised circles under my gray eyes. I looked at the loose strands of brown hair falling out of my clip. My hands were covered in dried specks of wall primer from a project I started weeks ago. I designed this bathroom. I picked the exact shade of the grout. I selected the brass mirrors. I poured my entire identity into making this house absolutely perfect. I thought if the space was beautiful enough, the life inside it would be beautiful too. I thought I was building a home, but I had just turned myself into a building. And Logan knew it. That was exactly why he copied the house. He did not want to copy me. He did not need my soul or my personality or my thoughts. He just wanted the perfect aesthetic lifestyle I knew how to curate. I was easily replaceable. My paint colors and my furniture layouts were not. My mother loved a beautiful kitchen more than she loved the ugly truth. I had loved this house more than I loved myself. I stood up straight. The cold marble slipped out from under my palms. I stared at my reflection until the blurry edges sharpened into clear focus. I wanted to keep this house to prove I won. I wanted to fight him for the walls and the floors and the roof. But keeping it meant staying trapped inside the very walls he stole from me. The house was just wood and glass and paint. I could build new walls anywhere. I turned on the cold water. I splashed it onto my face. The icy shock of the temperature made me gasp out loud. I grabbed a clean white towel and pressed it against my wet skin. I looked in the mirror one last time. I spoke to the quiet room. My voice was steady. It did not shake at all. I am not this house. The sun was not even up yet when I reached for my phone. It was exactly 6 o'clock in the morning. I dialed the number and waited through 2 long rings. I am done trying to save the house, I said the second the line connected. JJ paused on the other end. What? I have been fighting to keep a building, I told her, my voice low and steady in the dark bedroom. He can have the house. I want my daughter, my freedom, and every single penny he stole from me. The house is just walls. I can build new walls. That is the first thing you have said in 2 weeks that actually sounds like you, JJ replied. I outlined the new plan. I was done with confrontations in the kitchen. I was going to file the divorce papers, and Logan was going to be served at his job site right in front of his crew. I was also filing an alienation of affection lawsuit against Vicky. She would be served at the coffee shop during her morning shift. I was going to burn his reputation to ash. But before I handed the entire evidence package over to the lawyer, I needed to retrieve one final thing. I needed my original sketchbook back, and I knew exactly how to get inside that house. I walked into my kitchen and picked up the ceramic plate Vicky had left behind. I turned on the faucet. I washed it carefully with warm water and soap. I dried the edges with a clean towel. At 11 o'clock in the morning, after Logan drove his truck away to work, I walked the 30 steps across the wet grass. I knocked on her front door. Vicky opened it a moment later, her pregnant belly pressed tight against her athletic shirt. Her eyes quickly scanned my face. I saw the flash of surprise immediately masked by a bright, sugary smile. "Oh, Kendall," Vicky said, clasping her hands together. "You did not have to return that." I smiled back. It was the exact same calm, pleasant expression I used when pitching an expensive remodel to a difficult client. "Of course I did," I told her smoothly. "Those cookies were absolutely delicious. I wanted to come over and ask for the recipe." Vicky hesitated for 2 agonizing seconds. Her eyes searched mine for a trap. Finding only a polite neighbor, she stepped aside. "Come in," she said. "I just made some hot tea." I stepped over the threshold. The legal entry was secured. I was an invited guest. The sensory details hit me like a physical blow. The air smelled strongly of Benjamin Moore White Dove paint. The sunlight slanted through the windows, pooling on the exact same shade of oak flooring I had chosen for my own living room. The house felt warm. The thermostat was set to 72 degrees, which was my precise preferred temperature. I sat down at her kitchen island. I kept the conversation light, but my professional eyes rapidly scanned every single corner of the room. The charcoal gray sofa in the living room was an article Sven. The exact model sitting 30 steps away in my own house. The books on the floating shelves were tilted at the exact same aesthetic angle I used for my design portfolios. "Your house is so pretty," Vicky said, pouring hot water into 2 ceramic mugs. "Logan says you designed everything yourself." My fingers tightened around the warm mug, pressing hard against the smooth ceramic. "Every inch," I replied. "It took me a full year." I looked around the kitchen deliberately. "Funny. Your place has very similar taste," Vicky faltered. Her smile dropped for a fraction of a second. "Logan helped me pick some things out," she said quickly. "He has a really good eye." "He does," I agreed softly. "He really does." I took a slow sip of tea and asked if I could use the restroom. Vicky pointed down the hall. I stood up and walked down the corridor. I passed the gallery wall. 5 frames hung in a symmetrical grid. A photo of Logan and Vicky hiking, a photo at the beach, a selfie taken in this exact kitchen, and in the very center, an ultrasound picture of the baby. I reached the end of the hall. The master bedroom door was wide open. I looked inside. There, sitting on the nightstand right next to his watch charger, was my thick design sketchbook. It lay open. I recognized the page instantly. It was the color palette and layout I had drawn for Lily's nursery. My chest seized. He was using the blueprint of my daughter's room to build a space for his new child. I stepped into the bedroom. I grabbed the heavy book and shoved it deep into my leather tote bag. It was my property. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I had 15 seconds. I snapped 8 quick photographs: the bed, the nightstand, the identical bathroom tile. I walked back down the hall and returned to the kitchen. Vicky was standing at the sink, rinsing a spoon with her back turned to me. On the counter beside her sat a printed piece of paper. It was a confirmation for a prenatal appointment scheduled for next week. Under the patient information, a line of bold black text read, "Partner Logan Harper." I raised my phone. I took the picture without making a sound. "Thank you so much for the tea, Vicky," I said, cheerfully picking up my tote bag. "And for the recipe." I walked out the front door and crossed the 30 steps back to my own porch. It was the very last time I would ever walk that path. Once inside, I opened my laptop and sent the final photographs and the confirmed lease agreement directly to my legal team. By Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, the trap was fully set. I sat in the passenger seat of JJ's car. We were parked tightly against the curb, 2 blocks down the street from Logan's current job site. My phone rested heavy on my lap. The screen was open to the group chat with the lawyers and the process servers. JJ reached over and clicked the radio off. The silence in the car was thick and suffocating. 10:02. My phone vibrated. A text message from the lead attorney. Process server confirmed arrival at job site. Looking for Logan Harper now. I traced the hard plastic edge of my phone case. I stared out the windshield at the passing traffic. 10:04. The phone vibrated again. Served. He opened the envelope on site. 3 employees and the homeowner witnessed the exchange. I closed my eyes and let my head fall back against the headrest. I could picture it perfectly. Logan opening the thick manila envelope, his charming smile freezing on his face. The workers watching, the client staring, the divorce papers, the dissipation, claim the evidence list, all hitting him at the exact same moment. 10:06. Another notification popped onto the screen. Victoria Slade served at workplace. She was standing behind the counter. I imagined her hands shaking. I imagined the spilled milk on the counter. Her coworkers staring at the massive lawsuit resting next to the cash register. The pregnant barista sued for alienation of affection. Everyone in that cafe knew exactly what it meant. 10:07. The screen flashed bright. Logan Harper was calling. The phone buzzed aggressively against my legs. I watched the call drop. Then it immediately rang again. Then a third time. 5 missed calls stacked up on my screen in a matter of seconds. "Do not answer it," JJ warned, gripping the steering wheel. "I was not going to," I whispered. 10:09. A text message crashed onto the screen. "Kendall, what on earth is this? Call me right now." I stared at him. For 4 entire years, I had always answered his calls. I had always made his life easier. Now I let him wait in the wreckage he created. 10:11. An automated delivery email arrived in my inbox. Package successfully delivered to Patty Harper. Inside that cardboard box were 23 side-by-side photos comparing the 2 houses. There was a copy of the lease agreement Logan signed. There was the prenatal appointment paper showing his name. Resting on top of the evidence was a handwritten note. You knew. You chose your son over your granddaughter. This is what loyalty to a liar looks like. I locked my phone and dropped it into my purse. Now, she knows that I know. She knew, I said quietly. JJ put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. We drove back toward my neighborhood, but I was not going inside that house. I had woken up at 4 a.m. to pack. Clothes, the stroller, my laptop, my design supplies. Everything was already loaded into a rental vehicle parked at a storage facility. I had left only one item behind on the kitchen island. The sketchbook I reclaimed from Vicky. I left it open to the very first page. 4 years ago, I had written Harper Home, the beginning. Beneath those faded letters in fresh black ink, I had written a new sentence. The beginning was beautiful. The ending is mine. 20 minutes later, Logan would pull into the driveway. He would open the front door. He would find the house completely empty. The Benjamin Moore paint the floating shelves, and the brass lights would still be perfectly intact. But the designer was gone. Without me, the house was just a collection of empty, meaningless walls. My phone vibrated one last time inside my purse. I pulled it out. An unknown number. It was Vicky. He told me you two were separated. He told me the house was his own design. I am sorry. I read the words twice. I did not reply. I took a screenshot of the message, added it to the legal evidence folder, and deleted the conversation thread. 2 weeks later, the afternoon sunlight poured into a small one-bedroom apartment in downtown Charlotte. The walls were painted a standard, cheap apartment white. Not white dove, just white. Unopened cardboard boxes were stacked high in the corner of the living room. Lily sat on the scratched hardwood floor, giggling loudly at the echoing sound her wooden blocks made in the hollow space. I had not even bought curtains yet. My phone chimed with a video call request. I swiped to answer. JJ's face filled the screen. How is the palace? JJ asked, a massive grin on her face. I flipped the camera around to show her the empty, echoing room. It is extremely bare. It is yours, JJ, corrected gently. It is bare and it is mine, I agreed. That is the best kind of space. JJ updated me on the fallout. Logan was scrambling blindly. The court completely froze his business accounts, pending the financial fraud investigation. He had no access to the money he used to fund his double life. Vicky had realized that a man willing to build an elaborate fake reality for his wife was also lying to his mistress. She had packed her things, broken the lease, and hired her own lawyer to fight for sole custody of the unborn baby. The suburban community had turned on him overnight. The side-by-side photos of the houses had leaked into the neighborhood social media groups. The charming, helpful neighbor was now a local pariah. The community center revoked his baseball coaching position. The ladies from his mother's church group stopped waving when he drove past. Patty called me exactly one time. She sobbed hysterically into the receiver. I should have told you, Kendall, she cried. I should have said something. I listened to her weep. I did not comfort her. You should have told me, Patty, I replied coldly. But I hope you tell your granddaughter the truth when she is old enough to ask why Mommy and Daddy do not live together anymore. Tell her the real story, not the comfortable version that protects him. Then I hung up. Lily crawled across the floor and tugged eagerly on the hem of my shirt. I put the phone down, scooped her up, and settled her onto my hip. I looked around the empty apartment. There were no brass pendant lights. There was no gallery wall. There was no custom oak shelving. For the very first time in 4 years, I had absolutely no idea how I was going to design this space. I had no blueprints to follow. I had no master plan. There was no one looking over my shoulder waiting to copy my life. And that was exactly the point. Lily pointed a chubby, sticky finger toward the bare glass window. A pigeon had landed on the metal balcony railing outside. Bird Lily announced it was the first word she had ever spoken completely clearly. I laughed out loud. It was a real deep laugh that reached all the way to my tired eyes. I walked over and pushed the window open. The warm, noisy city breeze blew inside, tossing my loose hair around my shoulders. I carried Lily over to the nearest cardboard box and pulled out a brand new, empty sketchbook. I opened the stiff cover to the very first blank page. I took a black pen from my pocket. I wrote 2 simple words in the center of the paper. Lily's room. It was not the Harper home. It was not a blueprint for anyone else. It was just a room for my daughter. And I would start building my real life right there. 14 months later, the apartment in downtown Charlotte is no longer bare. It is also not perfectly curated. The walls are not painted white dove. The living room is a chaotic and vibrant shade of sunflower yellow. There is a smudge of grape jelly on the baseboard near the kitchen. I do not wipe it off. It is Lily's mark. It is proof that we live here, proof that this space is breathing and messy and entirely ours. I opened a new design firm in the spring. I do not do luxury kitchen remodels for wealthy couples anymore. I do not source brushed brass pendant lights from Oregon for people who want their homes to look like a magazine cover. I changed my entire business model. Now, I sit across from women who have just signed divorce papers. I sit with women who are staring at empty living rooms and do not know who they are without the men who left them. My first client of the day is a woman named Eleanor. She is 42 years old. She sits in my new office holding a crumpled tissue. Her husband of 15 years just moved his 25-year-old secretary into their marital home. Eleanor bought a small townhouse on the other side of the city. Just make it look nice, Kendall, Eleanor whispers. She pushes a glossy home catalog across my desk. Pick whatever you want. I just want it to look put together so my kids think I am doing okay. I look at the catalog. It is filled with pristine white sofas and spotless glass tables. It looks exactly like the trap I built for myself. I slide the catalog back across the desk. I fold my hands together. Eleanor, I say gently, we are not building a showroom to prove you are surviving. We are building a sanctuary for the woman you are about to become. She looks up at me. Her eyes are red and exhausted. I do not know who that is, she admits. My voice cracks when I talk. I do not even know what colors I like anymore. He always picked the paint. I stand up and walk over to the large window in my office. The city traffic hums steadily below. I remember the cold mulch against my knees. I remember the smell of fresh paint in the dark. I remember looking through a glass pane at a duplicate of my own soul. I know exactly how that feels, I tell her. I spent 4 years building a perfect house. I picked the perfect grout. I hung the perfect frames. I thought if the walls were flawless, the marriage inside them would be flawless too. But a house is just a container. When my husband gave my exact blueprints to his mistress, I thought I lost my identity. I thought I was nothing but the walls he stole. Eleanor wipes her cheek. What did you do? I let him keep the walls, I say. I took my daughter and I left. Because a copy is never the original. And a foundation built on a lie will always crack. I walk back to my desk and pull out a blank sketchbook. It looks exactly like the one I started with 14 months ago in my empty apartment. I place it in front of her. I heard from JJ last week. She told me Logan could not keep up with the mortgage payments on 2 houses after the court froze his business accounts and the dissipation lawsuit drained his equity. Vicky packed up her baby and moved back to Ohio the moment the money stopped flowing. The bank foreclosed on the stolen house in the suburbs. A crew came in and ripped out the custom oak floating shelves. They took down the brass lights. The house is empty now, just hollow drywall waiting for the next owner. He kept the perfect house, but he lost his home. I tap the cover of the blank sketchbook. I look directly at Eleanor. Do not paint your walls white just because it is safe, I tell her. Do not buy a gray sofa just because it looks like a catalog. If you want to paint your kitchen bright teal because it reminds you of the ocean, we will paint it teal. If you want a velvet purple chair, we will find one. It is going to be messy. It is going to be loud, but it is going to be yours. Eleanor touches the cover of the book. A small, tentative smile breaks through her tears. Okay, she whispers. Teal sounds nice. I spend the next 2 hours sketching out a kitchen that breaks every single traditional design rule. It is wild and mismatched and absolutely beautiful. When Eleanor leaves my office, her shoulders are pulled back. She is no longer hiding. I pack up my bag and lock the office door. I walk down the busy Charlotte sidewalk toward my yellow apartment. The sun is setting, casting long, golden shadows across the pavement. I think about all the women sitting in dark rooms right now, wondering how they are going to rebuild their lives from scratch. I think about the fear of starting over. It takes a massive amount of courage to look at a blank space and decide not to copy the past. It is terrifying to realize that your identity is not tied to the person who broke your heart or the house you left behind. You are the architect of your own life. You always have been. The blueprint is entirely in your hands. I pull my phone from my pocket and open my video recording app. I stand on the corner of the street as the city moves around me. I press record. If you are listening to this right now, I say into the camera, I want you to look around the room you are sitting in. Look at the walls. Look at the things you have chosen to surround yourself with. Are they truly yours? Or are you living inside someone else's design? If you had to pack up everything today and start completely over with nothing but a blank sketchbook, what is the very first thing you would draw? I smile at the camera. The wind catches my hair. Tell me your story in the comments below. Tell me about the moment you finally stopped following the old rules and built something real. I am reading every single one, because we are all just building our sanctuaries one messy, beautiful room at a time.